Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm going to take a few moments because I have been thinking about this and talking to so many people, and I really do want to get the opportunity to express how I feel about this topic. So um, I understand that this very important topic is pretty much black and white for most people. And if I was only a resident of Welland going about my everyday life and business, I believe it would be that for me also. But alas, I'm not only a resident, I am an elected official who's been tasked with what I feel is one of the most important, difficult, and heart-wrenching decisions that I've had to, or probably will have to, make in my entire life. Now, the power of law to mandate the wearing of a mask at the federal or the provincial level does not seem to be a possibility for whatever the reasons. Hence, they haven't done so. So it's questionable why and how, at this level of government, it is possible. Yet here we all are. Now, I voted yes in July after the debate was cut short, and I didn't have the opportunity to speak at that time. But the bylaw presented to council was tweaked in ways that settled not all, but many of my strong concerns at the time. Primarily, the clause inserted that exempted those individuals that could not comply with the mask mandate for various reasons. And that clause also made it perfectly crystal clear that no explanation would be required by those individuals. Now, I trusted that statement, as did the public and the residents of Niagara. That right has clearly not been respected. And I can say that by the amount of phone calls that I've received and actually had to kind of intervene on a situation this evening. I find that truly disturbing. Shaming experiences that many of the residents have been experienced and have shared with me are truly unacceptable. In our notes today, I'm pleased to see that staff acknowledge this, but it is obvious that our messaging has either not been strong enough, or businesses who have every right have chosen to expand the mask bylaw by setting stronger restrictions. This is something that could have and should have been more thoughtfully addressed well in advance. Now, after the last vote, which I was honestly undecided on, even as I hit that yes button, but I did so because I felt it was a responsible decision at that time. And since then, I've spent a great deal of time researching, consulting with the residents, and have even had an email exchange with one of the top medical experts in Canada. And that has been my primary focus in preparation for today. So after reading an open letter, which was published by top Canadian medical experts, I found it very interesting that those 18 experts stressed that the country's focus on wiping out the virus is, quote, posing significant risks to overall population health as other priorities take a back seat to the pandemic. And in an open letter to the Prime Minister of Canada, those same top 18 Canadian health leaders called on the Prime Minister to take what they called a more balanced approach that protects the livelihood and protects the likeliness to those that are expressed and exposed to and possibly could die from the COVID virus, namely the elderly, while allowing the rest of society to return to something closer to normal. It further states, and I quote, aiming to prevent or contain every single case of COVID-19 is simply no longer sustainable at this stage in the pandemic. And we need to accept that COVID-19 will be with us for some time, and we need to spend our time finding ways and resources, finding ways to deal with the virus. So after reading this open letter signed by 18 top Canadian medical health experts, I took the next step. And I wrote a letter an email to Dr. Gregory Taylor, who is Theresa Tam's immediate predecessor as Chief Public Health Officer. And much to my surprise and my pleasure, he was kind enough to take the time to write back. And in his email, he stressed how difficult this decision is and recognized the position that we all have been put in. He extended his utmost respect, and I quote, for reaching out and doing my best to make decisions in the best interests of the citizens of Niagara. Now, that being said, he made a few comments that describe why this decision is so very difficult for those of us who are faced to try to find a more balanced, fair, and responsible approach to dealing with this virus. He recognized that we are being tasked with making this decision faced with inadequate, conflicting, and changing scientific evidence. He recognized that it's clearly a challenge to balance interventions intended to protect Canadians with the unintended negative consequences. He applauded my desire to think through what he called the imposition of mandatory non-medical masks and consider the overall implications or cost benefits. It was very clear that this wasn't a clear yes or no to the masks, but I respected his thoughtful response and that he took the time to converse with me. Now, I fully understand that this pandemic, if it gets out of control and floods our hospitals and our healthcare system, that it will cost millions, if not billions, and could collapse our system as we know it. So we keep people healthy and out of the hospitals as best we can to ensure those that require medical attention outside of COVID-19 related illnesses can continue to get the care that they need. What's debatable is whether or not masks are the answer to this. And we may never have the definitive answer to this question. I am a strong proponent of social distancing and continued personal hygiene. And for the record, I wear a mask when going into any place of business, store, grocery, etc. Our lives have been already changed dramatically. I am very cautious at gatherings. I keep them small and with close friends and family. And when out in public for various events, I practice social distancing as mentioned, and I wear a mask when social distancing is not possible. But I don't do these things because they are mandated. I do them because I am a strong believer in personal responsibility, and I will continue to do those things, even if by some chance tonight the bylaw is not extended. And I would implore others to do the same. I will not be able to support the bylaw before me as is with a 6-month extension. The focus on masks has taken all of us at all levels of government away from finding the means, the will, and the desire to create a plan to live with this virus like we live with other viruses. Instead, many are focusing on getting to 0 cases. This is an unrealistic approach that we may never reach, all the while raising the bar on our citizens and adversely impacting our economy, which has already been sadly devastated. If it was to bend the curve, as we were told, then we wouldn't be having this discussion this evening. We would not be having another debate. As there are presently, unless that's changed today, we have not one single person in Niagara hospitals with COVID. I'll speak directly to my constituents in Welland for a moment for public knowledge. And to put this into perspective, we have a population of 50,000 people, approximately. Since the onset of this virus, we've had a total of 220 cases. Due to small numbers, I could only get total Niagara hospitalization, which was at 13.4% of the cases in Niagara that were hospitalized. And it is my understanding that Welland stats are in line with Niagara. In Niagara, 90% of cases have recovered and 7% have passed away. And our cases of death were due majorly to the outbreaks in our long-term care homes in Welland and our retirement homes. And that's why we had the higher deaths in our area. Very few cases or deaths have occurred since we've got that under control. That, I suppose, speaks volumes on a stat level. Niagara's 64 deaths are broken down as follows.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor Foster.
We're up to 12 minutes already.
I'm informed by Councilor Foster that we're significantly over time, so could you, I guess I have to be the heavy and say, would you kind of wrap up now? Sorry, that's the rule I have.
I would ask for maybe 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes so that I can finish. This is very important to me, Council.
I will be happy to grant that to you.
I thank you, Chair Bradley. Niagara 64 deaths are as follows. 80% over 80, 97% of deaths 60 or over, and 81% were in long care and retirement homes. I need to say that every single life matters. Had we known what we know now, had we known then what we know now regarding the vulnerability of our precious seniors population in long-term care, we may not have these numbers today. Still, though we are upping our game in long-term care homes and retirements, our resources are thin. I am not able to support a 6-month extension, but that does not change my strong recommendation to continue to do all that we can do as responsible citizens to keep yourself safe and healthy, and most importantly, to do that because you care for your family, your neighbors, your friends, and your fellow citizens. If this bylaw is extended this evening by my fellow councillors, I implore you to restrict the timeline to a 2-month maximum. And I understand this is an uncomfortable topic to keep revisiting, but we owe it to the residents of Niagara. They deserve our constant hands-on approach, balance, and responsibility when dealing with this. When you make a statement recommending 6 months more, whether it can be rescinded or not, you kill the spirit of people. And when you kill the spirit of people, they lose hope. And when they lose hope, despair sets in. The repercussions, mentally and physically, of such a decision will no doubt impact many people in other communities and in all of our communities with serious adverse effects and effects that we may not see for a long time.